Why do you think people talk about motivation? People trust motivation. They go all in for motivation when it really needs to be standards.
If I was listening to this right now and I'm that person that John's talking to, join one of his coaching sessions. Join one of your coaching sessions. I do that. I did that when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
If you want to be around, sometimes at first you have to pay. If you can walk into a room, this will eliminate a lot of those nerves. You're still going to have nerves, but if you could walk into any room or any situation that's uncomfortable with this mentality and even verbalize this, it will change the game. If you walk in and say, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything, but I want to learn.
Hey everyone, John here. 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 Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I got a special guest today, and this is a first times two. I was telling Jake earlier, this is the first time that I've had a repeat guest on the podcast, and it's the very first time that anybody has sat on that couch and
it's comfortable
and been in person. I mean, this is my very first in-person interview in the studio.
Yeah.
So welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast, buddy.
Man, it's an honor. I'm glad that I'm the first person here. I feel honored to do it. I love what you're doing. I see you all over the place, all over social, doing big things, leading people. And it's inspiring to me. And you're my good friend, but I'm always inspired. And I'm grateful that I could be here on the show with you today. I appreciate you.
Jake, again, thank you. Mutual respect. Jake brings me gifts every time he comes and sees me. He has a gift for me, so I need to invite him over more. So I get more gifts. But today you're in for a treat. We are going to unpack a couple things, and Jake, he's on to bigger and better things. He's making a move. He's always making moves, but we're going to talk a little bit about the move later. But today, I really wanted to dig into this season. We're talking about teams. We're talking about crisis. We're talking about change. We're talking about, the things as leaders that make us unique.
Yeah.
We were mentioning earlier, anybody can be a peacetime leader. Yeah. Anybody can lead through when times are good, when you got all the resources, you got all the money, you got people coming to work for you. But true leaders lead when the times get tough.
Right.
And Jake's one of those leaders. So we're going to share some information with you guys today, talk about some things to help you out there lead through crisis. If you're in a situation to where you don't know what's next, you don't know the answer. Leaders are people. I think we have this mantra that we're Superman sometimes or Superwoman, and we got to know everything day one.
Right.
And you got to be the strongest person on the team. And you got to leap tall buildings and, have the x-ray eyes, or not x-ray eyes, but laser eyes and all that kind of stuff. But it's not true, Jake. It's not true. What's been your experience? I mean, I want you to talk directly to the listener today and tell them a little bit about yourself. Tell them a little bit about your background, your experience with leadership, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Sure. So my background is business mostly. I made my income, built most of my wealth on building businesses, building sales pipelines for industrial companies. That's how I made most of it. I'm just a regular guy from Oklahoma that I'm intensely curious, and I've been blessed with this ability to seek that curiosity. So I'm passionate about learning, and it's allowed me to go on some crazy experiences and some crazy journeys through life. So now I get to share that. I have a little company called Neuro Detox 10, and I get to share some of these amazing tools that I use that have helped me to develop myself and develop other leaders within my groups. And so that's what I'm doing nowadays.
Yeah. Well, a couple things I just want to first let everybody know. Jake, he's very humble. This guy right here, he's built businesses to the $1 million figures. So he's wrote books. He's hiked, 30 miles? Was it barefoot?
Yeah, we did a 30-mile barefoot run one time. Yep.
Yeah. So this guy puts his mind to something and he just goes and gets it done. So we're talking to somebody today that it's not just, theory. This guy has gone through the trenches. He's been there, done that. You all know how I feel with congruency when it comes to leadership. And you want to follow the leaders that do what they're going to, do what they say and say what they're going to do. And Jake, I've always looked to you as one of those leaders. So let's get into the first topic. I want to talk about when life throws you a curveball, when something doesn't go the way that you planned, right? And you're in the middle, you just mentioned that you're changing, right? You had to pivot a little bit. Talk a little bit about, tell the listeners a little bit about what that looks like from your standpoint and some things that you've done to overcome those challenges.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that because I have an answer that served me so well, and it's almost a miracle pill for me. It's almost something like a magic genie, because I've put myself in a lot of difficult situations, and just like your listeners and yourself, life happens as well. And when you're trying to keep pushing the limits and keep pushing the edge and keep experimenting and keep seeing what's happening, you have to find new tools. And one thing that I lean on, this is my number one secret, if you will. This is the magic secret that I use when things go haywire, when life throws you a curveball. As you said, I'm going through some things. And what I say is this: thank God. Every difficult situation, if you can put it in the perspective of thank God, it's not about a belief. It's thank you for the opportunity to get better. Because the bigger the opportunity, the bigger the difficulty, the better I'm going to be on the other side of it. So give me the best curveball, and I'm going to swing and miss the first time. But I saw the pitch in the context of a curveball. You showed me that pitch. You showed me the best pitch. I'm going to swing again the next time. Maybe I miss again the next time. But maybe the third time I tip the ball. Maybe the fourth time I get a little more of the ball. I'm going to hit that ball. I'm going to get better. So in any difficult situation, and I've been in them just like you have, incredibly difficult situations, personal situations, family, illness, business, all the situations that your listeners will listen to. If I can say, thank God, give me some more. It doesn't make the situation go away faster, but now it changes my perspective of the situation. I'm no longer a victim. I'm in control. I heard a good saying, a good quote the other day. I loved it. It said, if you're in hell, walk around like you own the place. I loved it. Right? If you're in hell, walk around like you own the place. So give me the most difficult task. I'm not asking for it, but when it shows up at my door, I say, okay, nice to meet you. Because now you get me. Right?
Yeah.
And we're going to make each other better. Iron sharpens iron. Sometimes the iron doesn't come in a nice, pretty package that looks pretty on the mantle. Sometimes the iron comes in a surprise envelope in the mail that says you owe some kind of money you had no idea about.
Yeah.
Now you got to handle the situation. Okay. Now I can complain. I can cry. I can go look for somebody to talk to. I can go to a therapist. I can do all these things. And I'm not saying they're not helpful, but I can also say thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because when I get through this one, guess what happens the next time it shows up? Because it will show up again. What happens the next time? I've seen you before. I've seen that curveball. I can hit you. You're no problem. And so that's kind of the mentality that I have when faced with the curveball situation.
Just listening to you, I get energized because I share that same mentality. Like, it's almost like, how dare you, right? I compete against one person. Myself. I want to be the best version of myself that I can be every single day, as a father, as a leader, as a brother, as a son. And when you said show up in hell, if you're in hell, right? How did you say it?
If you're in hell, walk around like you own the place.
Walk around like you own the place.
Yeah.
I think that chip on your shoulder mentality sometimes has created resiliency. And resiliency for me is not just getting up, not just picking yourself up, it's how fast you do it. And when you said you use your experience, you've been there. Oh, this is familiar for me. That familiarity doesn't happen overnight. Like, you got to go get uncomfortable.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people out there fall short, is they stay in that comfort zone. They stay in that, I don't know, this doesn't feel right. I better just hold back. Yep. Right? Yep. And I don't know if you've experienced that. I experience it maybe once a week, twice a week, sometimes daily, depending on how tough the week is, that we got a lot of things going on right now. The world is changing at a rapid pace. And I think as leaders, you have to lean into that uncomfortableness. When you get those butterflies, that anxiousness, whatever that feels like for you, like leaning into that feeling instead of pulling back in, escaping to a comfort is important, because there will always be a challenge, as you mentioned. And when that challenge does come, now we've been there. We've led through those tough times. We've had those difficult conversations with others and with ourselves. We've quashed or squashed those limiting beliefs, right? And I think that's an important part of what I heard you just say. When we get a curveball, it's keep swinging.
Well, I think when you take a leadership role, or even if the leadership means you're leading yourself, you take on a new responsibility that you must put yourself in difficult situations. Because why not? Why would you not want to make yourself better? Or you can do the other route and say, I'm just not going to be a leader. Because that is an option.
Yeah.
People can say that. I'm just not going to be a leader. Then good, that's fine. Live your life. You can do it however you want. But if you decide I'm going to lead a team, or I'm going to lead myself, or I'm going to lead my family, maybe you're just leading yourself, going to the gym. Well, then now you got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I think people miss a great opportunity in getting uncomfortable. And you said something, we feel sometimes we want to go to the safe thing. We don't want to put ourselves in discomfort. Well, that's like a DNA wired safety mechanism that says, give me comfort and give me peace. I just want shelter and food, and that's what I want. But we know our muscles shrivel up and die if we do that. I think people really miss the opportunity to grow and to see the curveball ahead of time when they don't put themselves in the situation before it happens. Let me say it a different way. I like to say this: go find nervous before it finds you. Yeah. You can go put yourself through a simulation that when you're in the real moment, you can be somewhat familiar with it. And the more times you do that in advance, when the unlucky moment shows up, you'll be able to handle it, because it's going to happen. Life happens. Yeah. Flat tires happen. But thank God you practiced with your 16-year-old in the driveway before it happened. So when he's on the side of the road an hour from home, he can get out and say, I'm not 100%, but I did this before. So I can do it now when this curveball's thrown at me. Yeah. If that makes sense. And I think people miss a big opportunity to go get uncomfortable every single day that could put them a leg up in situations, leadership situations, when life throws them a curveball. That's my number one thing that I tell people: go find nervous before it finds you, and you'll have a better opportunity. Yeah. So answer me this: if somebody's out there and they're on the fence, right? They maybe have found something that is uncomfortable for them. What's the first step that they can make? In what regard? If they found something uncomfortable, like if step they can make to complete they got a situation, yeah, they have a decision to make. Okay. They can take the easy way, or they can go get uncomfortable, and they're very hesitant to make the uncomfortable decision. What advice would you give them to lean into that uncomfortableness, or to make the decision that makes them uncomfortable? The best advice, there's a couple ways to look at that. One, I would say get around people that are doing the same thing that you want to do. That's the first thing I would tell people. If somebody has probably done what you're thinking about doing, just go get around those people. We kind of touched on it earlier off camera. The number one thing I would tell somebody if you're trying to get better in any situation is go get around those people. Even if you don't do anything, just being in their proximity will rub off on you. Yeah. So if you really need to get to the gym, you're 100 pounds overweight, and you just don't have it in, you're worried, you've never been to the gym, if you can just walk into the gym and sit in the lobby of the gym, that's going to get you within proximity. And if you just show up every single day, eventually you will go lift the weight. So the first thing I would say is, if you're trying to edge yourself into discomfort, get around other people that are doing that. That's probably the best advice I could give. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it a couple of different ways. You're the sum of your 5 closest friends, or your 5 closest people in your circle. If you want to level up, you got to get around people that are leveled up. Right. You can't, if you want to level 10, right? If you want to be a level 10 leader, if you want to be a level 10 CEO, an entrepreneur, whatever you want to be, level 10, because that's where I want to be. 1 out of 10, I'm a 10. You got to get around people who are level 10s,
or above. I think, and I'll share a story with you. 2 weeks ago, I went to a leadership training course and I walked into the room and there were some senior leaders there. There were some leaders there that were way smarter than me. Been in leadership.
The kind of rooms you want to be in. Yeah.
Way smarter than me.
Yeah.
Been a leader for way longer than me.
Yeah.
Like, I respected them. And I walk in that room, Jake, and my heart, like, is in my throat. Nice. You know, I mean, I can feel, right? I can feel the heartbeat. I mean, right now I'm getting kind of sweaty and clammy just thinking about it.
That's the good stuff, man.
And I walk in there and they have name tents and I'm looking around, you know, for your name like you normally do. And there was about a 2-second burst where I didn't think I saw my name and I about walked right out. I about walked right out the door because I was like, well, they don't have my name in here. I shouldn't be in here, right?
Right.
Right at that moment, though, somebody came over, introduced themselves, asked who I was, said, hey, yeah, you're right over here. I just didn't see it. I just didn't see it. So that's just an example, like, and I consider myself like able to handle some pretty high stressful situations.
No, definitely look at you as a high level leadership coach, man.
Yeah.
You know how to get into situations uncomfortable.
But we all have moments of weakness.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's important for the listeners out there to understand. Like, I'm 45 years old.
Yeah.
I've been in the leadership game for over 2 decades. I've been in some big rooms.
Right.
And that room had maybe less than 20 people in it. And I had a brief, you know, feeling of flight, of escaping.
Yeah.
Because it was uncomfortable.
That brings up a great point. I hope this might only resonate with one listener, but I hope it resonates with one person. So if you're the person that resonates with, I hope it's maybe reach out, maybe leave a comment, maybe send John an email or something. This is something I learned about situations like this that really help, because a lot of people out there say, I want to get uncomfortable. I don't know how. There's this thing in society where we have to feel like we know everything. It's something from school. It's something from grades. It's something from getting A's and getting C's, getting D's and getting B's, getting made fun of for raising your hand and being wrong. There's a stigma and it sticks with people their entire life. I've seen 50, 60-year-old people act this way. It destroys them. And I see 20-year-olds act this way. It destroys them. And that's this. If you can walk into a room, this will eliminate a lot of those nerves. You're still going to have nerves, but if you could walk into any room or any situation that's uncomfortable with this mentality and even verbalize this, it will change the game. If you walk in and say, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything, but I want to learn. You take away all the preconceived notion that you're supposed to be the smartest person in the room. You take away all the pressure that nobody's going to ask you a question. You've already did the Eminem 8 Mile thing where you just said everything bad about yourself. You just said, I don't know, but I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
I took this improv class to get uncomfortable a decade ago, maybe. And it takes everything away. I walked in there, and anybody that's done comedy or improv, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I said, and that's exactly what I said. And it took everything away. I said, listen, I'm not funny. I don't know anything about comedy. I'm here to learn. And you know what? They were super nice. They said, okay, awesome. Glad to have you here. And you do the same thing with people. When somebody comes up to you and says, I don't know anything. Can you help me? Human nature is to help the person. But if somebody comes in and goes, I know everything, you're like, hold on a second.
Right.
So I just want to give that tip. One person, if you're listening right now and you're the one person, whoever hears this, that this helps you, send John an email or something, because the number one thing to walk into any room, anybody high level, you take all the pressure away. I don't know anything. I'm here to learn. Yeah.
No, that's gold. I think one thing that going back to what I was saying earlier as when you get the title behind your name, there's this assumption that all the knowledge comes with that. And for some of us, it's very difficult to say, I don't know. To say, right, I'm here to learn. I'm a novice.
Yeah.
Because we're expected to be experts on everything. And that expectation is a false expectation.
Right.
I don't know how many times that I've walked when I went to go, prime example, another great story. We went hiking 2 weeks ago. I walk into REI looking for a backpack.
Great store, by the way. Great store.
Walk in. I'm like, the store's huge.
Yeah,
they got, I don't know how many hundreds of backpacks, Jake.
Yeah.
Like, it's overwhelming.
They'll custom fit them. They'll put them on. They'll measure them. The whole, it's awesome.
Right? So I'm sitting there, and what do? The guy comes up to me. I'm looking at the backpacks, And he says, you have any questions? I go, no, I'm okay. And he goes, yeah. He goes, do you have a pack already? And I said, I lied.
Did you really?
I'm calling myself out. Calling myself out here, all the listeners. I said yes.
Some kind of backpack, man. You got a computer bag or something.
Right? Yeah. No, I got a backpack. Yeah, it's a Swiss Army backpack or Swiss whatever those backpacks are. You know, my travel bag. I said yes, and I got to thinking, what in the heck am I doing? I don't have a backpack. I don't know anything about these packs.
Yeah.
But that feeling of I had to know, like I'm in the store, I'm looking at backpacks. I should know everything about the backpack. Why do we do that to ourselves?
It's class. It's schooling, is what it is. It's grade school stuff, and that's what we talk. That's what I do with my new company a lot. Is that conditioning? We're conditioned to be right, and when we raise our hand, and we're 7 years old, and we say apple, and the answer is orange, and Charlie and Joe and Susie laugh at us.
Yeah,
we stop answering the question, or we lie, or we do something to fit in and feel comfortable. And then a lot of people carry with them their whole life. But that's good recognition that you said, why did I do that? You know,
ridiculous.
Why did I do
Absolutely. So guess what? I get a small backpack, a backpack that's too small for me. And then he's following me around. He's like, well, we put weight in it and all that.
Yeah.
All the things like that you're supposed to do for a good backpack, because I couldn't go back and say, it was my ego. Now I lied. I'm like, I can't go back and say I don't have a backpack. You know, I've never had a hiking backpack. Very different than a school backpack, by the way. So what do? I leave the store. And I come back the next day and I tell the truth. Because
you got the best of you. Like, you sleep. You couldn't even sleep at night because, man,
I couldn't.
You're like a little kid that stole a cookie.
I'm serious. My conscience did. Yeah, you're right. I went back and I said, you know what? I don't have a backpack. And I came out with the best dang backpack ever. Because
you went back and you got it. Yeah.
I went back in and I admitted that I'm a novice and I need to learn.
Yeah.
Instead of letting my dang ego get in the way.
Yeah. Well, people forget that.
Yes.
Yeah, people forget that we have to be right about everything. But every single person listening, you, everybody, your wife, everybody is an expert at something. And whoever's asking you a question that you feel silly, that you feel like you have to be right, that you don't know the answer, that you have to lie about the backpack, you know stuff about leadership that guy has no clue about. Yeah. And we have to remember that and put it into perspective. And that's good that that's funny that you went back the next day and did that. But it's just such an important thing if you can shed that. So I like languages a lot. I'm fascinated by cultures and languages. And I believe it's the number one reason that adults don't learn languages. I know there's some cognitive growth that happens at a younger age. That's some development that's a little more pronounced that we don't experience as adults. But we still have an advantage because we already know a language, so we should be able to learn other languages. I believe the number one reason is because we're afraid to not speak. Because we're afraid to speak incorrectly. Because to learn a language, you have to say things incorrectly a lot. That's the only way to learn. If you see a kid learning, they'll say a word backwards, they'll mispronounce it. And I believe that the reason that people don't get more experiences in life, whether it be something as difficult as languages or even just getting a backpack, is because we're worried about being wrong. Yeah. And we're limiting ourselves and we're putting a ceiling on our capabilities.
You're so right.
Only because somebody we don't even know might think that we're not smart.
You're so right.
And they're not even going to think about you the next day anyways.
You're so right.
They're done thinking about you.
Yeah.
They're on to the next problem they have that we all have.
Yeah.
And so if you can handle that, if a person can handle that, it changes the game.
You're so right. I mean, again, listen to what Jake's saying, because I waited 2 years to click record on the podcast because I was worried what people would think of me. And I wasn't worried about the strangers. I was worried about what my friends and my family would think about me. Guess what? My friends and my family very rarely watch the podcast. Yeah. Like, I got complete strangers that come up to me and tell me, hey, you made a big difference, right?
Yep.
Not my mom. Mom, I know you watch every single one. Thank you, Mom. Yeah, she does. She supports me. Yeah. But Jake, go in. I mean, we go into whatever it is, right? And we build up these stories about why we can't do something, what other people will think, And half the time, they're not even watching. They don't even remember. Like 24 hours later, they're going to forget. And I think the lesson here is get into situations that make you uncomfortable and accept failure. Like I had a good quote the other day from Jay Shetty. He talked about we need to be professional quitters. We need to quit doubting ourselves.
Okay.
We need to quit believing self-limiting beliefs. We need to quit doing things that value. But we don't look at quitting. We take the word failure, we take the word quit, and we associate negative connotations to it when I have learned way more from failing than I ever have my successes. Like I've walked away and been like, ouch, that hurt. I'm not going to do that again. But when I win, like you just focus on winning.
Right.
You know, you don't focus on the lessons that you've learned to win. It's when you fail, I think that's where your focus is. But yet everybody's afraid of failing. Everybody's afraid of not knowing. Everybody's afraid of what everybody else is going to think. Everybody's afraid to quit.
The good thing is it's a muscle. It's a muscle you can develop. So failing is
Tell us more.
Literally develop that muscle.
Yeah.
And so it's no different than going to the gym. It's really that simple. So people make these big, scary monsters in their head, but it's no different than losing 100 pounds, losing 50 pounds, getting in shape. It's the same scary monster. It's one step at a time. And I'll even give you some tips for, like, if somebody's like, I cannot get uncomfortable. I'm stuck in my shell. I have this job. I don't like it. I can't even talk. I need to have a difficult conversation. I can't have that. I need to go work out. I can't do that. Just let's say you're the 1 out of 10 being the most risk averse, like no problems with risk, 1 being terrified. If you're a 1, afraid of getting uncomfortable, there's some small things you can do to develop it. So I tell people this, something as simple as this. You go to an office, you have a piece of trash in your hand, you wad up a piece of paper, you see the trash can 10 feet away, throw the freaking piece of paper at the trash can and try to make it. That's so stupid and simple. Do it. Now do it with somebody watching. Think about that.
Yeah.
So many times people will not do it because they're afraid of missing throwing the trash. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Picture this. Do that. That's
Yeah.
step 1.
Yeah.
Do that in front of somebody and miss. And then when you miss, do this. Go pick it up and be like, I missed that one.
So easy.
So it's step 1. Base level failure. Right? So base level failure. Now do that. Now just and just expand it from there. So look for ways to get uncomfortable that way.
Yeah.
Fail that way. There's just ways to get uncomfortable. You see a shopping cart in the this is not failure, but this is uncomfort. You see a shopping cart in a parking lot, go walk over to the shopping cart and you put it up.
Yeah.
I know it's not yours, but so many times we walk past a piece of trash or walk past a shopping cart. Like these are opportunities to do something that are out of your norm.
Yeah.
And anything out of your norm is discomfort. Anything out of your norm could provide a failure. You could grab a shopping cart and say, hey, that's my shopping cart. That could happen. It's not going to happen, but like you can miss throwing the trash but these are like base level.
Yeah.
But it's day 1 in the gym. And if you go from there, then you start to look for other exercises, right? Just like you go to the gym, you start by walking 5 minutes, then you walk 10 minutes, then you walk 20, then you're like, let me jog a little bit. Then you're like, let me do a 5K. Then you're like, okay, let me go. You look for new exercises. So then you go, let me go do the improv. Let me start the business. Let me go to another country. Let me learn a language. And now all of a sudden you look up 2 years later, you hit record.
Yes.
You know.
Amen. You're right. Yeah. You build that muscle.
Yeah.
You build that resiliency. You build the willpower to put yourself out there when you don't know the answer to things, when it's not 100% certainty, right? Go before you're ready, figure out what day 1 is and, don't miss 2 days in a row. That's the Go Be Great mantra. We talk about it all the time on our podcast. And the go before you're ready piece, I think, is probably it is the most important out of that whole step. Go before you're ready, figure out what day 1 is, and then don't miss 2 days in a row.
In that realm, what are some of the things you do? Because I know what it's like to do something every single day and do things that are not always fun, and consistency takes work. So what are some things, there's a lot of discomfort in that.
Sure.
What are some things that maybe you fall back on when you don't want to hit record? Because I know you've hit record and you've got thousands of videos and you got lots of content out there, but just like a job, just like anything we love, there's some days that we just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So how do you get uncomfortable? How do you get uncomfortable?
Yeah, I was lucky growing up that I had great role models.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents, hard workers.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and dad, hard workers. I remember my mom, high school educated, little bit of college. She would find odd and end jobs, whether it was working in retail. I remember one year during Christmas season, she was a UPS deliverer.
Mm-hmm.
And she came home, and I can still remember. I mean, this was 30 years ago, Jake, maybe 25 years ago, right? She had fallen on the ice, and she was all bruised up. And guess what? She got up, and she went to work the next day.
Yeah.
And those are the things, when I don't want to do something, when I've had a tough day at work, and I come home and, I don't, whether it's recording a podcast or it's doing lawn work or chores or, if you got a business, going to work and having those difficult conversations, going to work and listening to somebody else, tell you about their life experiences, and maybe life's not going so well when your life isn't going so well, and you're like, well, I'm having it worse. You want to tell me I have it worse. Yeah. That's when I think about my mom falling down, getting up and going, to work the next day. That's when I think about my dad working for 42 years, going to work every day. That's when I think about my grandfather who lied about his age, went to go fight for our country, and, came out, misspelled his name, and he just kept it that way. And he continued. He was, bus mechanic. He did odds and end job. My grandmother, worked in personnel. I mean, I can go on and on and on about the models, about the people that modeled that behavior, that consistency. And so I'd like to think it's in my blood. That's what I tell myself. I like to think it's part of my fiber, my being, who I am. And when the times get tough and I start telling myself, no, you're tired. Oh, you can just take off a day. Don't worry. Nobody's gonna notice.
Right.
That's when I go back to those stories. That's when I say, John, remember, I only compete against myself.
Right. You're
better than this. Go get it done. People are depending on you. We take a huge responsibility. Leadership is a privilege, Jake. And I get very frustrated sometimes that just because you get a title behind your name, you think of yourself as a leader. And when the times get tough, you quit showing up. You quit being consistent. You quit doing the things that you need to do in order to make your team, make your organization, make your company, make your business successful. So I think it's very important, listening to your story, to understand that people are forged. Your legacy will be forged in the tough times. Not in the easy times. That's what brings me into this room and record, over 1,000 videos and make sure. And I put a lot of value and content in them. I mean, I'm not in here just reading scripts.
No, you do a great job. You do a great job. And so what I hear is a lot of stuff there. First of all, what a blessing to have role models like that.
Very blessed.
That's a cool stories. I'm sure you can talk for days with pride about a lot of your family members. That's so cool. And for a practical step or tool that I heard is that you almost have trigger words in your phrases in your mind that are kind of like warning signs.
Yes.
Is what I heard. It's kind of like, do I want to do this or nobody will notice? You've almost anchored those as trigger words.
Yes.
To go, hold on a second. That's the red light flashing. That means I need to check my systems. Something's about to go down. Like, how can I, is that accurate?
Yeah, that 100%, man. 100%. I think you nailed it. We have these things that we tell ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
Like, another one is, I'll start tomorrow.
That's a great one.
Right? One day instead of day one.
Yeah.
And, I'll get to that later.
Right.
And then what happens is somebody else does it, and then we get mad at them for doing it.
That's my idea. I had that idea. I remember one time I told my buddies, I was like, hey, what we should do is like hook video games up to like where we can all play from wherever we're at. And it was before online stuff happened. I was like, oh, dang, Microsoft stole my idea, or whoever it was. They didn't steal my idea. They were way ahead of me, but
you're right.
But they didn't take my idea, but it's like that, right? We go, oh man, I missed out on that one. No, you had the chance to act act, because it will happen. Whatever you're doing, somebody's going to do it. And that's another thing, is there's so many opportunities to learn from other people that have went there before. So when we're worried, kind of the theme is getting uncomfortable, stepping into the leadership role, is you're out here putting so much great content out.
Thank you.
all the people that follow you, it's great content. I digest it as much as possible, and
Thanks,
I
Jake.
always get something out of it. I always think, how can I get better? And I'm a person that's read hundreds of books. I've done the courses. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in personal development. Like, it is my thing. I love doing it. And every single video, I'm like, good point, trigger word. You're always dropping something that makes me say, okay, that's a good way to get better. Because I believe everybody needs a coach, no matter how good you are or how good you think you are.
100%.
You have to have a coach, because we have blind spots. And you're fantastic at kind of revealing those blind spots to people. I know I get that from that.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure your audience does that, gets those blind spots as well, right? Yeah.
Well, back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, and we didn't frame it in the sense of guardrails, but you talked a little bit about it, in the trigger words. That's a guardrail for me. I only compete against myself. That's a guardrail for me. What are some guardrails for you that you could share, that will keep, because here's the thing, Jake, the reason I call them guardrails, because I call them, it's almost like bowling with guardrails, bowling with bumper rails, right? Mm-hmm. And I always liken this to parenting, because right when you think things are going right and you bowled that perfect ball and it's spinning just right and the strike's going to happen, something happens. Like the kids, I got 3 of them, and they make another decision. Mm-hmm. My daughter, full ride to OU, my alma mater, was going, we had everything lined up, everything paid for. Very last minute, she went to Oklahoma City University, but it was the best thing for her. So that is bowling with guardrails. Like you think you got everything lined up and then it's off, but you hit that guardrail and it comes back. So what are some guardrails that in your life, or things that you've set up to
keep me on the track?
Keep you in the lane.
Well, I think, so one, being around people that I want to be around.
Yep.
It's the best thing you can do. We've touched on it a little bit. Get around the people you want to be like, and that you respect. And if I'm around people, if I have to be in situations, it pulls on my energy. For sure, it pulls on my energy. So one is being around people that I can call, people that I can lean to. If I talk to you, I know I'm going to get leveled up. I know I'm going to provide the same. I know your energy. So
100.
Being around people, that's one thing. The second thing is a routine around health. A routine around health, everything starts, in my mind, your energy starts with your health. And your physiology can change a lot of things. Your physiology can change your mentality. Yeah. So if you're depressed and you go do a workout, you're going to feel better. You're going to get those endorphins. You're going to feel better. So my body now I'm 45 now, so I've been working out for so long, over 30 years, that if I go 3 or 4 days without a workout, it physically changes. It alters my mind. Yeah. That's one guardrail. These are simple guardrails. Be around people. Focus on my health. Now, some signs. Let me try to help you out here. Some signs if I'm getting off track. One, like I said, my body, I'll feel it. 3 or 4 days, something's going on. When I don't want to do something, let's talk about that. Yeah. Which is every day. Every single day, I don't want to do something. Yep. And the best way I can say this is something I learned is focus on discipline and not motivation. Yeah. And if motivation comes, it's like a dessert you didn't expect.
Listen here. Yeah. Listen, everybody.
Do not count on it and do not wait for it. Yeah. It's really like a dessert that you didn't expect. If it shows up, great, enjoy it, but it's fickle. You can't trust it. Yeah. You cannot trust motivation. It is like a drunk friend or something. I don't know what it's like. It's like it shows up at random times and wants to party. And if you're in that mood to party, I don't party anymore. But like if you're in that mood and that's what the thing is, then boom, it hits you at the perfect time. But you cannot trust it. And that's the main thing. So focus more on discipline and grooving the routines and disciplines in, because you can trust it. It might not be as exciting as motivation, because motivation is, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Feels good, doesn't it?
But you can't trust it. It's like a high high risk stock.
Yep.
You know, if you're waiting on it, you might be waiting for weeks. Another thing about that, though, here's a lesson I learned. If you need to be inspired, not motivation, inspired. If you're working on a project, go find it. Don't wait for it. Go somewhere and find it. Go to nature. Go be around people. Go find it. So those are some things I count on. If I need to be inspired, I go find it. I like to go to the airport. For some reason, it gives me peace. Clears my mind. I like to go in nature.
Yeah.
That's peace, clears my mind. And I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, it did because
Gotta go off track. But motivation is terrible. Don't trust it. Yeah.
well, you know, and you bring up a couple of things. What I heard you say was one, motivation is fool's gold.
That's a better. Yeah, I didn't have a good metaphor on hand for it at the time. But yeah.
But you said it right. It lasts momentarily.
Yeah.
And once that goes away, once you figure out that gold polish off that nugget, and you figure out just a rock, now what do you do? Mm-hmm. And if you haven't laid down the foundation of standards and really, I think micro behaviors, micro, routines that will allow you to, I think 13 days is the average for like when something motivates you. That's why you see.
Oh, really? That makes sense. The New Year's resolutions.
New Year's resolutions, right? There's a National Quitter's Day. Yeah. Why?
That's right, yeah.
Because that's when motivation runs out, right? It is a day.
Yeah.
So why trust it? Why do you think, I think that's my question, why do you think people talk about motivation, people trust motivation, they go all in for motivation when it really needs to be standards?
Well, I think it's human nature because we all want the quick fix. We all want the lottery ticket, and motivation is a quick fix. It's a quick hit of adrenaline. Yeah. It really is. It feels great. I love motivation. Yeah. But motivation on top of discipline, now you got something good. But I think that the big thing is the quick fix, the instant gratification, because motivation feels good. It feels good to have an idea. But if you don't have the steps to put that idea in motion, you're not going to be able to accomplish the idea in the way that you were motivated to create the idea. You got to have the systems in place to do it. It's just not trustworthy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the important lesson here that I want everybody to take away is if you've gotten into leadership or you've gotten into being an entrepreneur because of motivation, because it's the fad, right? Influencer. You're in for...
You're going to get your butt kicked, man. I'll tell you this, you're going to be up against people that love doing what they're doing. Yeah. It's going to be hard. And anytime somebody's doing what they love to do and you're just in it for a quick fix, you're going to get ran over because you don't have the stamina, you don't have the discipline, and you don't have the things necessary. Now, I'll also say this, decide up front what you want to be. Decide up front what you want to be. Yeah. Decide in advance, and then it takes the emotion out of it. So if you know in advance, you mentioned your daughter in college, right? Sure. If you know in advance that if you have a work project or your daughter has a graduation and you don't know the exact day, but if you know a year in advance, no matter what, I'm going to my daughter's graduation. Yeah. Okay. You've made the decision. That's what's happening. Now, when you get to that graduation date and somebody at your work goes, John, I need you to come speak for us. We're going to give you $50,000. We got this gig. It's $50K. It's $50K Saturday, the 28th of May. And it happens to be the same day that your daughter's graduating. Now, $50K is nice. And you want to be on stage. You go speak with Tony and Ed and all this stuff. And you're out there in front of 10,000 doing what you like to do. And the emotion says, gosh, that would be fun. But you've already made the decision, so now it's a non-decision. Yeah. It's a non-decision. So make the decision to be a leader. It's a non-decision. Make the decision to be disciplined. It's a non-decision. So to circle back, close the loop. What do you do to get uncomfortable? What do you do to stay consistent? Make the decision up front.
I love it.
Because the emotions are coming. Yeah. So stiff arm them when they come. Yeah. No.
I've heard it talk about in a similar way of like contracting. Put out the negotiations, the bylaws, the clauses, do all that up front, man. Yeah. Like, it's going to be hard. There's going to be bad days. You're going to get sore if it's a workout, right? You're going to have days that you're eating things if you're on a diet that you don't want to eat. but you know where the end goal is, and you've taken out the decisions you've taken out because you've already contracted that up front.
Yeah.
One of the things that is important, even in like from a leadership perspective, when we talk about relationship management, which I think is one of the key characteristics of being a leader, because we deal with people. That's who we're leading, right? We're leading others. We're building influence.
Well,
we're
if you don't,
building
you really have
trust,
nothing.
right?
Yeah.
Got a team of one.
Yeah.
And
you get to pat yourself on the back, tell yourself how good you are, yell at yourself. It's really not that fun.
All that kind of stuff. But it just boils down to the fact that leadership isn't a shiny title with a corner office and, everybody gets to call you CEO or Boss John or, whatever your title is. It is a deeper responsibility. And some of the things that you talked about, when it comes to showing up when you don't want to show up. So, contracting with yourself, figuring out those guardrails, figuring out those trigger words. I think the other piece that I would like people to take away from today's episode is, the experience piece. And we discussed this a little bit. I have a 26-year-old son, and some of the things and decisions that he makes at 26 years old drive me crazy.
Sure.
I'm like, why? Why are you doing that, right? Why are you beating your head against the wall? But then I have to remember, that's where I got my wisdom from, is beating my head against the wall, is falling down, is making those mistakes and learning from it. And 45 years later, now I can sit here and I can say, all right, I'm not going to do that again. One, it hurts. Two, I've been there, done that. And it's hard for, I think, people to put themselves in other people's shoes sometimes when almost you're like, why are you doing it? Well, it's because they don't have the experience. They haven't taken 4 swings at the ball because they haven't been pitched to 4 times. They're only on their second, pitch. Going back to your baseball analogy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to get out there and do stuff, and I like to tell people certain things with on the experience thing. I say do it as fast as possible. Go and do it at your own time. And another thing that's really important for people to know is it's okay to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you suck. This is very important. We live in a fluffy society, a feel-good trophy. Everybody gets a trophy society. It's okay to tell yourself that you suck. But here, follow it up with a statement. Like your experience, you said your son, you want to do things different. Maybe he bangs his head enough times he goes, hey, Dad, could you help me out here? Yeah. But if you're not going to do that, if you're listening to the listener, tell it's okay to go, I suck, but I'm not going to keep sucking. Yeah. I suck now, but I'm learning. I'm terrible at this thing, but I'm going to get better. Yeah. And I think that goes overlooked, that go to the whole theme of this. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, and it's okay to suck, because you're going to get better if you want to get better. Yeah. If you're going to make that decision to be the leader, the kind of people that you draw to your show, I know what kind of leadership you bring. The people listening to this show are high value people. They want to be good leaders. I know that. But it's even at that level, you can say, okay, I'm a leader in this scenario, but in this specific thing, maybe I suck at listening right now. Let me get better. Yeah. And let that ego down. Go, I suck at it. There's some things I suck at. I have some people on my team. Thank God for the people on my team. Yeah. Yeah. And I say, listen, I'm not good at this. And thank God for you. So I think it's important to do that as well. And in those experiences, it all comes with experience, right? So.
No, you're so right. And, we've already been talking kind of about leadership, talking about guardrails, talking about, the importance of experience and leaning into the things that we don't want to do. I'm going to ask you one more question. And
we can keep going. We're kind of all over the map. I hope I'm not all over the place for the listener. I just love talking when we start talking. People that are listening, we've already been talking for 2 hours before this show.
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe we'll put that on a different episode.
Well, Jake and I get together and we kind of go down these wormholes, but I think it's important. And I think the listeners appreciate, getting out of the norm here, because a lot of times it's just me solo. So when I get somebody in the room, I love to ask questions.
Sure, love it.
And get your experience, right? And, Jake and I go way back. For those that know or have seen the first interview, we went to high school together, played ball together. And then, Jake, it was what? Well, we graduated. We were 18 a year ago, maybe less than a year ago.
So 20, however many years that is.
We reconnected. Yeah. And so I'm not good at public math, but it's 20 plus years that we didn't talk. I mean,
literally never crossed paths.
Paths.
Yep.
And we reached out Facebook, got together, got on the show. We were in similar, leadership, similar professional development mindsets.
Yep.
And there's one thing, Jake, everything happens for a reason. I believe that. 18 months ago, I was auditing my relationships with everything, relationships with money, relationships with people, relationships with myself. And I got to the point where I started narrowing that down, and then you came, right? Yeah, you came. And we always pick up, no matter how long we go, weeks. Now we probably pretty much talk, once a month at least, right? And Jake was just over for dinner, a couple weeks ago. But every single time, and where I'm going with this is, talk to the listeners out there that maybe aren't where they want to be, that they don't have the right friend group. They aren't surrounding themselves with level 10s. They're maybe in a very self-defeating mindset to the point where, they're having trouble maybe even pulling themselves out of bed, maybe even showing up to work, right? Going back to like the curveball, and this is probably to the extreme. What are some things that you can share through your experience? They get to hear mine all the time.
Sure.
To help them overcome those types of challenges.
The first thing, that's a great question, John. I appreciate you asking me that. The first thing I would do, I mentioned getting around people. So some people are like, I don't know anybody to get around. Well, if I was listening to this right now and I'm that person that John's talking to, join one of his coaching sessions. Join one of your coaching sessions. I do that. I did that when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
If you want to be around, sometimes at first you have to pay.
Yeah.
Pay to get around the knowledge.
Yeah.
Pay to get around people that you want. There's no problems with that. So pick up. I know you got some sessions coming up for $300 or something like that.
Yep.
Dude, that's money well spent. If I was 25 or 30 or 40, 50, whatever, and I want to be close to leadership, I'll pay for that. So I know it sounds like I'm not pitching. I'm saying that's what I did.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be around. I'm like, what is this thing? People know something I don't know.
Yeah.
And what happens? So what happens? There's a couple things, but this is the first thing. What happens when I buy your session? I'm just walking through it practically. I get to talk to you for 2 hours.
Yeah.
If I'm Joe Smith, whatever, I get to talk to you for 2 hours. Now you know people as well. I know you know people.
Sure.
Because I'm following you.
Yeah.
Now, if I keep with you, what's going to happen is there's going to be some kind of relationship. If I'm trying to learn, I'm hungry. I come to you with good questions.
Yeah.
Because as somebody that's a leader, I want good questions. I want hungry. I want somebody that's curious. I want somebody that's willing to learn. You bring me that person, I will help that person. And I will give that person more value than they ever expected. And I'll tell them 10 things and they'll forget 9 of them because we can't remember. Right? But so I would do that. I would get with a leader. Bring curiosity, energy, bring good questions, bring some hunger. And you're going to get introduced to worlds you never thought were possible. Yeah, it's going to cost you some money. But what do you want to pay? $300, $5,000? Or do you want to pay 5 years of your life?
Yeah.
So that's not a pitch, but that's the fastest, most direct way to do it. So if you're trying to get around, I can't remember the question. Get around other people, right? Get out of a funk.
Get out of a funk. Like
get around, and develop a routine, and start with a health routine in the morning. And it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a marathon sprinter. Do something first thing, and it's develop some discipline. 5 minutes in the morning. Brush your teeth and do 10 push-ups. That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
Start developing discipline and it becomes addictive.
Yeah.
It becomes addictive because you start getting success. And then those are the two simplest, easiest ways to do it. They're magical pills and they're not sexy, but they work.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there's something about just those little micro habits that we create. Like you said, brushing your teeth, do 10 push-ups. When we start associating things together, brushing teeth, 10 push-ups. You brush your teeth, hopefully, once, if not twice, more than, twice a day.
Yeah.
You're going to do 10 push-ups. That's no different than showing up to work or showing up to the office or showing up to your business, showing up to your team in establishing a routine that goes along with, it's not just showing up. It's, I'm going to show up and I'm going to spend 10 minutes connecting with Jake. Mm-hmm. I'm going to spend 10 minutes connecting with John today. I'm going to spend 10, those little micro habits, they create our influence. They create our relationship management. They create and open doors. Like you mentioned. Yeah, I know people. You know people.
Sure.
We know people together. Sure. Now we've increased our network.
Exactly.
Is our net worth.
Yeah.
And if there's any takeaway, I want people, in this last probably 10 minutes or so, get around others that make you uncomfortable and ask good questions. I love the question piece, right? So what are some questions? Because I know they're probably asking, well, what are some things that I ask? I ask, well, how did you become rich? Or how did you turn a business around? What are some good questions that you can think of?
Is there anything I can help you with? It's not a bad one. So the questions are the same questions you're going to ask. Hey, what did you do to get to X?
Yeah.
But there's some you can ask good questions. Come with a better question. Can you show me what this looks like? Can you explain to me what this looks like? Whatever the X is, I don't know what the thing is. Here's a good question. If you want to be around somebody with money, ask them about money. Like, hey, I've never even seen 100,000. Can you show me? Do you know how to show me that? Like, if you know somebody's got it, like, and then when you see it in person, holy cow, it becomes real. Right. So good questions to ask. Man, it's really dependent on the situation. What are you interested in? Because the questions, they're dependent on the situation.
What are some questions that you've been asked? Like somebody comes up to you and wants to know, Jake, how do I be Jake? How do I, do the things? How do I walk 30 miles in barefoot? I mean,
right. Well, so here's this is a great question because the answers are simple, and the answers are these are the questions I'm asked, but the answers are what do you want? Yeah. So what do you want? These are some of the good questions. What do you want? How can I get what I want? These are you can ask these questions to people. I'm trying to think. Let me see if I'm going to ask you some questions. Right? How do I become a better leader? This is a great question. I'm going to ask you questions.
Sure.
How do I become a better leader? That's one. Two. What do you do when there's chaos happening?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do when people are mad at you in the office?
Yeah.
So it's kind of dependent on the situation, but go in prepared. Prepare yourself with some questions dependent on the situation. What are some real things that you need to know? Ask a good questions. Hey, I've never been in a situation where 100 people are worried about losing their jobs or whatever.
Yeah.
What do I do in this situation?
Yeah.
So I didn't answer that question very well right off the bat, but go in prepared, do your preparation. It's dependent on the situation, but ask whatever you want to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just go in and say, I don't know anything. I want to learn. And it literally erases it frames everything in a way that you don't have to worry about being wrong.
I think the piece there that I took away is preparation. Like, don't walk up to somebody and ask random questions, right? Get to know them.
Sure.
Like, I think this is important even for an organization and a job. Understand the mission and vision of the organization. Ask a good question like, how can I fit into that mission, right? And then cite the mission. Like, this is your mission. This is your vision for your company, your organization. How can I fit in? These are my skill sets. How can I fit in? I think another good question that I always coach people on is, back to your X. If you want to do X, Like, what are some tangible things that you went through to get there?
Sure.
Because a person's story, my story zigzag. I worked in the restaurant business. I went to the medical field. You know, I did some teaching.
Yeah.
I got into training. I did some leadership coaching. I did some strategic development. It wasn't linear. And all of those things.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
All of those things prepared me for who I am today.
Right.
And what I needed to do to get myself to tomorrow. And I think that's the lost piece here. The lost piece of, don't just expect somebody to say step 1, step 2, step 3, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
Like, come in asking some good questions to figure out where your gaps are, where your blind spots are, and maybe some areas that you
Man,
can,
and
you know,
on
fill
top
those.
of that, just use the tools that we have available. So whatever if I don't know anything about leadership and I'm listening to you right now, I would go ask ChatGPT or some search engine, hey,
Sure.
what are 10 great questions I can ask this person that I really look up to?
Yep.
And boom, it's going to give you 10 great questions. You know, use the tools that we have available. That's something that you could absolutely do to make it easier for you. But man, just go ask. People are willing to help, but you got to get around the people you want to be around, you know.
Yeah.
And I want to tell a little story. This story kind of really changed my life, and I encourage people to go on an adventure like this if you can. But it showed me something about being around people and being around leadership. I moved to Portugal at one point in my life. It was my dream to go write. And I went there solo, and I lived on the South Coast, and there's this beautiful beach and like all this great environment. Like there's something you would see in a movie. It was that. And I was blessed and fortunate to be able to do this. And I remember sitting on the I had this long balcony. I remember sitting on the balcony, and the sun was on, or the moon was on the ocean. And I was sitting there in this moment of realization, and it was this very surreal moment, calm night. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is what I wanted to do. And I thought, 5 seconds later, I thought, I really wish somebody was here that I could celebrate with. And when you get into leadership, you're making a decision to be around people. And you're making a decision to be involved in people's lives. And it is the best reward you can have.
Yeah.
Because I sat there, I thought that was my dream. That's not my dream. I went and I accomplished it. I did what I wanted to do, but I was by myself. I was not surrounded by anybody. And when we step into leadership, we step into a responsibility, but it's the most rewarding responsibility we can have. So if you're doubting, if you want to get into it, take the leap, ask the questions, get around the people, connect with somebody like you, and get involved, because it is the most rewarding thing you can do.
Mic drop right there, man. Seriously, I don't know how, I can't even say anything, you know, in response to that, because you're 100% correct. And, you know, again, leadership is a privilege, and that privilege comes with sacrifice. It comes with a lot of responsibility, but it has been the most fulfilling thing in my life.
Absolutely.
To this day.
Absolutely.
So, Jake, thanks, man. I tell you, you know, we could talk another 2 hours, because the things that I cherish most in my life these days are my friendships, and you're a great friend. Yep. You bring me energy, you know, and I hope I reciprocate that with you. And, you know, one thing that I just want to leave everybody with is go find a Jake in your life, right? I mean, a metaphorical Jake.
Sure.
Because it's easy. Nobody wants to go through challenges in life alone. Like, go find somebody that you can feed off of. That's not an energy vampire. That's somebody that brings energy to the relationship, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we've been talking about. Absolutely. That's what you do for me. And I can't say thank you enough, my friend.
Appreciate it, buddy. It was a good time, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
you.
You're
welcome.
All right, we'll do it again. All right.
Jake, tell them where they can follow you, man.
Hey, you know what? I want to invite everybody to go to neurodetox10.com. All right. We got some big things going over there. Like I said earlier, I've been lucky enough to do well in business, and it's allowed me to help people with the confidence and getting out of their own way with this little exercise and program that we got over there. So we got some free trials over there. You can check it out. There's no You can go check it out for a week. No problems. When you want to get out of it, you can get out of it. So go to neurodetox10.com, man. You can get me and all my stuff there.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Go give Jake a look. I'm telling you, you're not going to regret it. Let's just say that. Jake's a dear friend, and again, I appreciate our time.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.